Iran has rejected peace while their oil leaks into the sea.
Yeah, guys, good morning. Reports indicate that Iran has responded to the U.S. peace proposal to end the war. Their response focuses on ending the war and ensuring security in the Strait of Hormuz. There is no mention of Iran's nuclear program, a key agenda item for the Trump administration. Now, this comes as we're also tracking reports of a cargo ship that was targeted off the coast of Qatar earlier today. We understand an unknown projectile hit the vessel that was 23 nautical miles northeast of Doha. That, according to the UK Maritime Agency, the explosion caused a small fire that is now under control, according to reports.
That's bad
the incident,
news.
though, highlighting the latest in a series of events in the Persian Gulf and Strait of Hormuz that show Iran is testing the fragile ceasefire.
From our perspective, a naval blockade is considered a military act. And a military act receives a military response. Let them understand this.
So they're refusing to surrender as an ecological disaster takes place, but here's why that might be a bad idea.
Well, you should ask that of the Iranians. Don't ask me. We didn't fire. They fired on us. My point is, if you fire at a U.S. Navy ship, what are we supposed to do? Say, there's a ceasefire. We're not going to shoot down your drone. That's a stupid question. That's a stupid position to take. Of course we fired back at them. They were shooting at us. That's what I would expect to do. Only stupid countries don't shoot back when they're shot at. And we're not a stupid country.
Do you expect that or have you conveyed any red lines to Iran where, if the ceasefire or whatever you call it, if they cross...
Well, the red line is clear. If they threaten Americans, they're going to get blown up. I mean, that's how much clearer can you be than that? If you are a missile launching guy, whatever they call that job, and you're sitting there and you fire a missile at the United States and we saw you fire it, we're going to hit you. Of course we are. Who doesn't do that? Unless you want to get your ship sunk. I mean, we're not going to let our ships get sunk by the Iranians with their little, their drones that they're firing. They don't have a navy anymore, but they bring out these little Boston whaler fishing boats and they try to swarm you. We're going to blow those boats up if they're coming towards our boats.
And if that wasn't bad enough, listen to what the president said about Iran's refusal to get this thing over with.
I have just read the response from Iran's so-called representatives. I don't like it. Totally unacceptable. In another post, he went on to say, in part, for 47 years, the Iranians have been tapping us along, keeping us waiting and laughing at our now great again country. They will be laughing no longer.
Laughing no longer. Meanwhile, Iran's oil infrastructure has already passed its breaking point. Watch this.
Well, satellite images released on Saturday appeared to show an oil slick spreading off the coast of Iran's Karg Island. The images, reported by the Reuters news agency, indicated a suspected spill that covered dozens of square kilometres of sea. The cause of the possible spill and the point of origin are unknown. Now, Karg Island is crucial for Iran's oil exports and has the country's largest oil terminal, along with pipelines and storage tanks.
Which we know are full. And the question now is, how does oil leak into the sea from its storage location if there's still room to store it?
The source of the oil is unclear, but it's believed to be several thousand barrels. Iran denying reports of a spill, a spokesman telling state-run media the sheen is the result of a discharge from a tanker.
Do you think they're slow-rolling it? Do you think they're intentionally slow-rolling the process?
We'll find out soon enough.
I think they
this
are.
Hour, we're also tracking developments of Iranian drones over both the UAE and Kuwait, an indication Iran is continuing its attacks against Gulf countries.
For what? They're not even part of
this response coming. Do we know who is sending this? Is this coming from Khamenei or Parliament? Who's sending this message?
Oh yeah, the Ayatollah,
about what's happening,
who we've never seen. Is he sending it?
What's interesting is late last week, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian indicated for the first time publicly that he had met directly for more than 2 hours with Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei. And there was also an interesting post from state media this morning, and I want to pull it up for you. It's from a top reporter inside of Iran saying Lieutenant General Abdullahi, in a meeting with His Eminence Ayatollah Sayyid Mojtaba Khamenei, presented a report on the preparedness of Iran's armed forces, encompassing the Army, the IRGC, law enforcement, security, and border guard forces, the Ministry of Defense, and the heroic Basij. This is an indication that the Iranians are trying to signal that if this response to the mediators in Pakistan and ultimately the Trump administration is not sufficient, that they are prepared if this leads to a resumption of the bombing campaign.
Prepared for what? What are they going to do? They have no military assets left to accomplish anything, and they're having trouble even threatening the Strait of Hormuz now that tankers are able to get out without their oversight.
Attacks by Iranian forces. And so Iran is signaling that they are prepared to return to war. The question now is what was in this response presented to Pakistani mediators and whether or not it is going to address the key issue that President Trump cares about, and that is ensuring that Iran never has a nuclear weapon.
He said it was unacceptable.
Hey, let me ask you about the Israeli response.
Oh, yeah, what's Israel going to do?
The Israelis are bracing for the reality that if these negotiated settlement attempts fail, the region could imminently return to war, which would include missile fire toward Israel. But we're also tracking other developments as it relates to Iranian proxies across the region, like the Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas. And I spoke earlier today.
That's right. We've got all these wild cards on the table. There has been a quote-unquote ceasefire, which has already been broken multiple times, but we've got this conflict between Iran and the United States, and then Israel and Hezbollah, and Israel and Iran. But what exactly was in the peace proposal they sent over, which was so unacceptable?
Look, it took Iran several days to respond to a US proposal for a peace deal. During that time, Iran said that it does not pay attention to deadlines. Now the Iranians have responded, and President Trump is clearly not happy with what he heard. Presumably that means that Iran has not agreed to some of the key elements of the US proposal,
like the nukes,
which reportedly include the suspension of Iran's nuclear enrichment and an end to restrictions in the Strait of Hormuz. On the contrary, according to reporting from Iranian state media, Iran's response includes demands for Iranian sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz and war damages from the U.S.
That can't happen. If they have sovereignty over a global choke point for international trade, they're getting a cut of the world economy. This deal is getting worse all the time. But what strategy is Iran trying to put forward here?
It seems outlandish, both maximalist positions here. What happens next?
Yes, the Iranian response to the U.S. was maximalist, was wanting reparations, all these other things. The latest things is that John Roberts of Fox News is posted online that he just spoke to the president. The president's predicting that the hardliners are going to cave. He says, again, the importance of getting this nuclear material. And the one interesting thing is that the president says he's reconsidering this operation, this Project Freedom. And that was where the U.S. would forcibly reopen the Strait of Hormuz. That started, that was working. That as actually as a long-term strategy is a way to take away Iran's biggest card, the control of the Strait of Hormuz.
Which they have no control over. That's the most fascinating thing about this. They're saying as part of their new demands, they want to control the strait. But with this Project Freedom that lasted for a few days and then stopped, the U.S. proved, hey, look, you don't hold that card. You've got nothing. So I don't know why they're asking for that unless it's their goal to just jerk America around again. But just before we continue, quick question. How much control do you have over your money right now? Technology has changed everything, and now it's changing how money works. Crypto started as a niche, but now it's going mainstream. Faster payments, more control, fewer middlemen. This isn't hype, it's where things are going. And getting started today is easier than you think, and that's where Rumble Wallet comes in. With Rumble Wallet, you can buy Bitcoin, hold dollar-backed stablecoins, and even own digital gold backed by real gold, all in one place. Setup is simple. It connects with MoonPay, so you can use your debit card, credit card, or bank account and be up and running in minutes. Start small, $10, $50, $100. It's not about the amount, it's about getting in early and understanding what's coming next. And once you're set up, you can even tip your favorite Rumble creators like me directly. So do this now. Scan the QR code or follow this link directly. It's also going to be in the video description. From there, you can download Rumble Wallet, tap buy, and you're in the game. Take control of your money. Get started with Rumble Wallet today. Now let's get back to the video. Legal disclaimer, Rumble Wallet is a technology provider and not a custodial service. See terms at wallet.rumble.com.
Thank God for President Trump. I mean, he's our ultimate backstop here because he's not going to take a lousy deal.
That's right.
And just look at what the Iranians are proposing to us. One, to keep part of their nuclear enterprise.
Ridiculous.
And that obviously is not acceptable.
No.
Two, to maintain sovereignty over the Straits of Hormuz.
Also ridiculous.
Indefinitely. And then the other three are all about, we know the regime is likely going to survive even if we return to combat operations, but we would want it to be so weakened that it's vulnerable to collapse.
Yeah.
But if we make this deal 3 of the provisions that they're asking for are all about financing their recovery. Unfreeze the frozen assets, remove the sanctions.
Stupid.
And we want reparations for the damage that's being done. So certainly, President Trump has absolutely rejected that.
Yeah.
I think we've given negotiations truly a test of time to see if it would work.
And that's what's so important about this. Many people are looking at this, people like you and I, and we're saying, yeah, we know the regime's just going to try to jerk us around. That's what they've been doing. That's what they've been doing for 47 years now. And the president knows that as well. At the same time, while this negotiation's been happening, we're trying to get the rest of the world to come into this because they need the Strait of Hormuz way more than we do. We've got the French and the British now sending some ships over here. Finally, and to me it seems like the president's been waiting for something to happen before giving up on the negotiations. Has that just happened?
And it's not going to work. And my judgment is the best thing to do is go back and finish what we started in terms of assigned military objectives. Let CENTCOM and IDF go back to combat operations, and also, when that's completed, open up the Straits of Hormuz. And listen, hold hostage Karg. We're blocking it right now. But the Iranians, if we go back to combat operations, are likely to hit as primary targets the oil and gas facilities that exist in the Gulf region of our allies.
Yeah, that's what
we
they're going to try.
We can tell them straight out, if you do that, we will begin not just to blockade everything coming out of Karg, but we will begin to gradually dismantle it. And take away your capability to actually use any of it.
That erases the other thing they're asking for. They're asking for this reparations. They're asking for all this ability to finance their own recovery. How does that happen if their oil export hub doesn't exist anymore for that purpose?
Which represents 80% of their revenue. So ability to actually use any of it, which represents 80% of their revenue.
Yeah, good luck.
So we hold all the cards here. We have always held all the cards, David. It's just that we gave them an opportunity to play a decent hand, and they're not.
They're not taking it
Trump
at all.
offered them a way
General,
out.
next one for you. President Trump is set to meet with Xi Jinping in Beijing this week. What message about Iran should the president bring to President Xi?
This is huge because China really depends on Iran's oil. They've been buying that sanctioned oil up. 90% of Iran's sanctioned oil was going right here. Now the president's going to meet with China. Look at this. China, deeply distressed, calls for an end to the U.S.-Iran war. Why would they be distressed if Trump is losing? Like America's adversaries on the television and in the progressive party of political violence love to tell us, if this thing is a disaster for Trump and this whole thing is going to get rid of Trump, why is China so eager for it to end? That's a good question, isn't it?
Going in, certainly, as you mentioned, David, Iran is an issue here, and it cannot be ignored. What the president would like President Xi to do, and he's already had multiple discussions with him, so dealing with Iran, and that is to put even more pressure on the Iranians and than what they have been doing. And certainly they've been provided intelligence, they provided solid fuel for their ballistic missiles, they've provided other components for their military equipment, and obviously
they're backing Iran.
What China wants is clearly this regime in Iran, David, to survive and to recover.
Because the last thing China wants to do is to have to give up the unfair advantage they've had buying this sanctioned oil. And they've got another proxy out there, another puppet state, so to speak, that they back who causes mayhem and takes the eye off China. Some people think Iran continuing their war of aggression against the Gulf allies, Israel, and the United States and the entire world economy has been to embarrass President Trump as he heads over to this meeting with China.
To survive and to recover, because this is their major foothold in the Middle East. And they certainly welcome Iran being able to push back on the United States over the Straits of Hormuz, even though they're being penalized along with that. They like the leverage it gives them. But they know full well that the United States hasn't exercised their full power here. And I think President Xi would want to keep that away from actually happening, because they don't want, David, they don't want the regime's existence to be put at risk by returning to combat operations and making the regime so vulnerable, not just because of economic warfare, but also because of the assigned military objectives.
Interesting. So what the general is saying is that China wants this regime around. They want them to make it. They don't make it if the U.S. goes back to combat operations. They don't make it if Karg Island gets hit. And if this regime cannot finance its own recovery, because if that happens, let's say we go back to combat operations, a bunch of targets get hit in this country, their oil infrastructure ends up getting wiped out, and the regime cannot finance its own recovery. Then it sets itself up for collapse and implosion. And if that happens, whoever's running the country after that may not be friends with China the way Iran is now. So China has a lot at stake when it comes to getting Iran to agree to something. And I have a big feeling that when Trump talks to Xi, that's going to come up. Hey, this is what we could do to Iran. Do you want us to do that? Okay, then get them to cut it out so that we don't have to do that.
It'll be on the table for sure.
China needs Iranian oil, and I'm wondering if the president could offer a little bit of a carrot to the stick in dealing with Iran for China and
they
say,
can buy our oil.
We got a lot of natural gas online. We got a lot of extra oil as a result of drill, baby, drill.
Right.
Maybe, you could start thinking about buying from us
but
instead of relying on so
Taiwan.
heavily on the Iranians.
That would be a novel idea, wouldn't it? I actually hadn't actually thought about something like that.
Well, I just throw it out there.
Well,
the general doesn't agree.
It's absolutely worth a try.
Worth a try.
Well, look at
not going to work.
The Chinese economy only depends on about 10% of Iranian oil, but it's 35 to 40% of what total comes out of Persian Gulf oil. In other words, the our allies and partners provide the other bit. However, Iran, 90% of the oil distribution that they're getting is bought by China at reduced prices.
China supports them.
China is financing everything Iran is doing in terms of nuclear expansion, ballistic missile expansion, and support to proxies. They cannot function without China's revenue source.
Wow. That's huge. And that revenue source is what Trump is going over there to talk about. China, you got to understand something. Their ability to invade Taiwan depends on creating the military means for such an operation that's going to take a lot of oil, that's going to take a lot of offensive capability. That capability is not going to be there if their entire economy, which relies on some Iranian oil, as we just heard, now has less of it. Now they're going to have to make tough choices, and it's going to have impacts on their economy if they say, hey, we're going to divert fuel that would be used for something else to go and do something that might not succeed in the first place. But now the big question is, does Trump pull a fast one? Does he go to this meeting with Xi and at the same time regain combat operations, go back on the offensive while that meeting is taking place? Does he wait till it's over? Does something happen before the meeting even starts? Does the meeting get canceled? Let me know what you think. I'll see you in the next video.